welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Cryptidmasterkd, and the terrifying creature crawling under your bed. I'm talking to you, cryptid fangirl. And in today's episode is a part 2 to the first video with a tragic story about the Wendigo. Cherry blood, yeah. Now, let's get rolling. Let's get started on this story. Now, in my last video, I talked about what a Wendigo particularly is, but I didn't explain clearly enough what is a Wendigo and how it tie into the story I'm about to tell you. You see, a Wendigo is a malevolent spirit literally brought into our world through what we call the ultimate act of evil, cannibalism. They have been part and parcel to the Algonquin Native American culture since time immemorial. They often start out as a human who has become lost, deranged, and cannibalistic. And those cannibalistic tendencies make you turn into this monster. And the Wendigo is insatiable. It wants flesh. It wants blood. It is never satisfied with the amount it can eat. And all of its descriptions emphasize its monstrosity, its deviation from mankind. And the most scary thing of all is it can possess and take over a person's body. In a word, possess them and drive them insane until they become deranged and cannibalistic. And it is a scary thing. And when they begin, and the more they eat, the more their hunger grows and the more they grow. It's really, some say that if you're bitten by a Wendigo, you turn into one, or if you even encounter a Wendigo, you'll turn into and survive. You'll turn. But enough. Now that we've clarified that up, and we know what a Wendigo is now, let's get into this tragic story. Even more tragic than the incident at Fort Kent, which I discussed in my last video. This story takes place in 1879. A Cree Native American named Swift Runner showed up in town near Alberta, Canada. Swift Runner, you see, was a trapper and a guide. And he came into town claiming his wife and children and family were missing. Swift Runner, you see, came into town telling to locals this heartbreaking story of how his wife and children, and you see, he had left to his winter cabin earlier that winter with his wife, 2 children, and his mother. But when he returned in the but when Swift returned in the spring, he was alone. And he came into town telling this heartbreaking story about his wife and children had starved to death due to a brutal winter and no food and supplies. And he says he had to watch them starve to death. It wasn't so hard to believe a family falling to a hard winter. Yet something was suspicious, you see, about Swiftrunner. He came into a town fat and healthy. He didn't look malnourished. He came into town weighing 200 pounds. And he didn't look malnourished. He looked healthier than ever. After a few nights, it became clear, though, that something was wrong. Swiftrunner, you see, started having night terrors, screaming in his sleep. Screaming, "I am the Wendigo! Raw!" Locals alerted the police, who launched an investigation. Now, this next part is going to be really grisly, so if you have kids with you, please have them leave the room. Anyway, Swiftrunner actually guided them back to his winter cabin, and when they got there with authorities, they were horrified of what they found. Human remains, bones were scattered all over the place. Many bones had been snapped in half and the marrow drained out of them. A big pot of human fat and blood and bones were over the fire. They had never seen this kind of scene in their whole careers. Swiftrunner had actually killed his entire family, shooting them, hitting them over with an axe, strangling, and then eating most of their bodies. He was arrested, obviously. Swiftrunner was arrested and sentenced to death by hanging, which would become the first legal hanging in Canada at the time. Right up until the time the noose was on his neck, Swiftrunner claimed the evil spirit of the Wendigo had possessed him and twisted him into a cannibal killer. When Swiftrunner was last words were, "I am no longer a man." This story is one of the most devastating account of Wendigo possession. But there is another thing that might have happened. A mental disease, mental condition known as Wendigo psychosis. It's a very rare form of cabin fever. Typically what happens in a Wendigo psychosis is somebody is trapped and stranded out in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of people, and they may have plenty of reserves to eat. What happens in this syndrome is someone will begin to develop the belief that they're going to turn into a monster and start cannibalizing on their friends around him. So it can be quite a frightening condition. And it may have had some part in the beginning of the Wendigo stories. But is this what happened to Swift Runner? Who knows? But really quick, let's have a drink for Swift Runner. Cherry water blood. So, with that out of the way, this story, I have plenty of more stories for you. And shout out to all the other people who do these stories about these cryptids and such. Like Campfire Tales, What Lurks Beneath, Poncho, all those other channels. Shout out to you, you're doing a great job. And in closing to this video, I'd like to say to Haley and Hero and BusNut33 and Billy Bob Tanley, do the best you can with what you got, and please hurry up and make a YTP about me, because that would be a huge honor. Anyway, to wrap this up, I hope you enjoyed. More videos are coming out very soon. You're not going to have to wait a month to see them. Please like, favorite, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. And wait a minute. What was that? Wendigo. No, I must resist. Anyway, with that out of the way, like, comment, subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments what cryptid you would like me to do next. Until next time, hope you enjoyed.